Welcome to the 10th episode of the Healthcare Security Cast. This episode is brought to you by 3D Network Technology, www.3dnetworktechnology.com.
Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast, the podcast dedicated to healthcare security, safety, and emergency management. If you are involved with a healthcare security program or desire to be, this podcast is for you. Join the conversation as we discuss the issues that matter to healthcare security professionals while leveraging the expertise of healthcare security thought leaders and experts in personal development. And now, here's your host, Brine Hamilton.
Welcome to the 10th episode of the Healthcare Security Cast. I'm your host, Brine Hamilton. Today is Wednesday, March the 4th. This episode is sponsored by 3D Network Technology. For more information, visit www.3dnetworktechnology.com. For members of the Healthcare Security Cast community LinkedIn group, we had a special giveaway this week, courtesy of our sponsor 3D Network Technology. We are giving away one free membership to IHSS. And the winner of this membership is Jesse Hernandez. Jesse Hernandez works at a hospital in the El Paso, Texas area. For any of the IHSS members listening, feel free to welcome Jesse. For those of you who aren't currently a member of the Healthcare Security Cast community LinkedIn group, feel free to join the group. You can either connect with me directly and I can send you an invitation, or you can simply request to join the group. And now for upcoming events. If you'll be in the Toronto area 1 week from today, that's Wednesday, March the 11th, the IHSS Ontario chapter is hosting an education seminar. Among the speakers will be IHSS President-elect Paul Sarnice. For more information or to register for free, follow the link in the description. On Thursday, March the 12th, IHSS and As Is Boston chapters are holding a joint meeting. And on Friday, March the 13th, the Boston IHSS chapter will be hosting their March breakfast meeting. On Wednesday, March the 18th, the San Diego IHSS chapter will be hosting a meeting. And on Friday, March the 20th, the Connecticut chapter will also be hosting a meeting. And for some educational opportunities, on Wednesday, March the 18th, IHSS will be hosting a webinar titled Healthcare Security Support for the Homeless, and this is being conducted by Jim Sawyer. This webinar is free of charge for IHSS members. All you have to do is register for the webinar. On March the 25th, IHSS is hosting a special interest group. The topic is body-worn cameras in healthcare security, and this is the second virtual discussion. This is being hosted by Ralph Cummings and is limited to a maximum of 15 attendees. So register soon. All of these meetings and education events can be found in the IHSS community calendar, and the link is in the description. If you'll be in the Toronto, Ontario area on Monday, July the 13th, the IHSS Ontario chapter is hosting the 16th annual Golf Classic. Now, this event over the last 6 years has raised over $110,000 for cancer research in partnership with the Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation. The link for this event is also in the description. And last but certainly not least, the 2020 IHSS Annual Conference and Exhibition will take place in Phoenix, Arizona, Monday, May the 4th to May the 6th. There's still time to register and sponsor the event as well if you're interested in some sponsorship opportunities. The link for all of this information is also included in the description. If you're not yet connected with us on social media, feel free to connect with me directly. I have accounts on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. My name is Brine, B-R-I-N-E, Hamilton, and I'm going to be the only Brine Hamilton on any of these platforms. Also, feel free to join our group pages. We have a Healthcare Security Cast group page on LinkedIn and on Facebook as well. And for today's show, I'm joined by Eric Clay. Our discussion will mainly be focused on the arming of your security team. Now, let's get into the content. So we're joined today by Eric Clay. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, and just as we start the conversation, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? Who is Eric Clay?
I'm relatively new to the healthcare security arena. I've only served in my current role for a little over 5 years. Prior to that, I worked as a security director at 2 Walt Disney World resorts in Florida. I also have worked as a security consultant overseas, providing services to government agencies and corporations with operations in Iraq. Afghanistan, and Europe. And I have over 30 years of law enforcement experience at the local, state, and federal levels, and continue to serve as an investigator for a local sheriff's office. Spend most of my free time with my family or volunteering.
Awesome. All right. You mentioned you haven't been in the healthcare arena for too long, but in the limited time, you've had some tremendous success. Just from a team perspective, your team at CoxHealth has earned the IHSS Program of Distinction, and from what I can see, you're the only hospital in Missouri to have done that. And so, what was the value proposition for you and your organization pursuing this accomplishment?
For me, developing and learning has always been a priority. So investing in our security staff was important. I want our officers to see the importance of their role and our organization, to recognize the contribution the security team makes. The IHSS Program of Distinction was one of the ways we accomplished this. I believe it shows our officers' mastery of the healthcare security principles, demonstrates commitment we have in preparing our officers for their current roles as well as future advancement. And it also reduces the risk and liability of exposure our organization has, increases the confidence our organization's leadership and members have in our department's ability to address relatively any situation. So I would definitely recommend IHS membership, certification, and also seeking the program of distinction to any healthcare security professional who's listening.
All right, and just to also talk about the success a little bit more that you've had, just personally, I just want to highlight recently that you were appointed as the CSO of CoxHealth. You've been named a finalist for the Campus Security Magazine's Director of the Year award, and also recently you won the Philip A. Gaffney Chair Award at the IHSS conference. What does it feel like to receive this sort of recognition from your industry and from your organization and colleagues as well?
I'm honored to receive the recognition, definitely, but I have to say I'm thankful to be part of a truly dedicated and talented team here at CoxHealth. As leaders, we're often singled out for recognition when things are going well. However, I think it's the men and women of the department that are doing the work that's led to the success. I also give credit to our very supportive senior leadership team here at CoxHealth, who have placed a great deal of trust and latitude in me over the last 5 years. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I've been fortunate enough to have people in my life that have both inspired and influenced me. When seeking advice, I've been able to call upon some truly talented people from around the country that are industry leaders in the healthcare security.
And would you mind talking about some of those experiences and who are some of the people that you've leaned on?
I'd say Bill Cox at MD Anderson is somebody who I reach out to periodically when I have a question about how to do certain things. Like we were restructuring our department, and I reached out to Bill to talk to him about that. Bill Marsitz at Advent Health has been a tremendous asset for us. He helped with the restructuring of the department. He's helped with our canine program. In fact, I'm going to be visiting him next week to take a look at his canine program. Eric Swanson's another person that I reach out to on a regular basis. And then, of course, knowing you from the Education Council has been a tremendous help in getting things done.
Awesome, and I appreciate that. Now, we've talked about IHSS quite a bit here already. What impact has the association had for you individually?
I would say IHSS has played a significant role in my security career. When CoxHealth selected me for this role, I had a tremendous amount of security experience. However, I had not worked in healthcare. Being specific to healthcare security, IHSS provided me with the resources and networking opportunities I think that helped make me successful. The people I've met at the ACNDs led to information sharing and friendships I do not believe I could have made anywhere else. Through council appointment speaking opportunities, IHSS has also given me a lot of opportunities to help shape healthcare security in the future.
Awesome. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on is some work that you've been doing recently with Security Management Magazine. Can you tell us a little bit about what that work is all about?
Certainly. That was just another great opportunity to give something back to the industry by sharing some of the knowledge that's been shared with me. And in January, Security Magazine interviewed me for an article about our efforts to keep our employees, patients, and visitors safe. We discussed some of the initiatives to combat the growing issue of workplace violence, such as having a clear policy, mandated reporting of violence, de-escalation, and physical skills training, and the addition of technology. We also touched on our efforts to build our security department's brand and ways to demonstrate the value security brings to the organization.
And well, the key point, the main reason why we wanted to have this discussion today It's a very hot topic in our industry, and that's obviously armed versus the unarmed discussion. So, can you speak to us about this aspect of your program and your approach as a department?
Certainly. Healthcare organizations, I think, face all kinds of difficult choices when it comes to protecting our staff, our patients, and our facilities. To arm or not to arm is certainly one of the many topics that organizations struggle with, and there's definitely not a one size fits all solution. However, our organization is somewhat unique in that our campuses had a mix of law enforcement officers, unarmed security officers, and varying security measures. But we wanted to standardize security and help keep our employees, patients, and visitors safe, make sure they receive the same level of protection regardless of the campus they visited. We knew we were seeing a lot more violence and more weapons were coming into our facilities. So what we did was we just essentially looked at the data from all of our reporting systems, quantified these numbers, and used that as we moved forward. We considered how the public might perceive an armed security force on campuses where they'd not seen one before. Our belief was that a patient or visitor seeing an armed security officer kind of provided them with a sense of relief, knowing that security could handle violent events and deter aggressive behaviors. So we took all of our information that we were able to compile. We presented a detailed proposal to the leadership at that campus and found them to be very supportive of the idea. When we presented the proposal to our legal departments, risk management, and regulatory affairs departments, once again, they were very supportive. So we just developed a comprehensive firearms training program for our officers, included a significant amount of time at the range. Our officers are required to qualify at an 80% level, which is higher than what the state of Missouri requires for law enforcement officers. And based upon the hospital environment, we really felt that our officers needed to be surgical shooters. So we really have focused on the training that goes into allowing them to maintain that skill. We purchased all of our firearms, duty gear, including level 3 security holsters. We purchased less lethal weapons, hearing protection, and gun safes. We developed a comprehensive policy and procedures on the use of force and the handling of firearms. And it's been about 3 years, I believe, since we started arming our officers. Each year we've revised the program. We're now building Kevlar-lined armories inside of each of our facilities to store the weapons. We've increased our qualifications to 90% now and now have a range to train our officers at. Again, it's been about 3 years since we started, and it's been very successful, I think, in that we've had other hospitals in the area, other colleges that come forward and ask us to provide the same training to their officers.
And it sounds like you guys are doing, a fairly extensive training program for your officers. And now, is turnover a factor at all? Does that impact how you train in any way?
Turnover is, I think, always an issue in this industry. However, since we've started really investing in our officers, provide 50 hours of annual training. A good portion of that would be firearms and other high liability areas, but we provide them with a 5-week entry training that comes in. I think we invest very heavily in our officers. I think we have a great organization here. So that is something that we're hoping is going to affect our turnover. But I think that a lot of the officers we originally lost were law enforcement officers that were going to other agencies. But now we are, again, investing very heavily in our new security officers that we're hiring. So I think we're going to see a change in that.
Excellent. Now, when you were having the early discussions about arming your officers, did you have any resistance at all within your organization?
I think we're very fortunate that we have the trust of our hospital's leadership, so there's really no resistance to the idea. I was probably the person that was most concerned about the program. I knew we needed it, but I was also cognizant of the liability associated with it. By the time we presented the proposal, we had worked through where we thought our biggest weaknesses were. We realized we were hiring the right people. We were providing them with an incredibly high level of training, providing them with the best equipment, and really setting them up for success. So all of our concerns were pretty much addressed by the time we presented it to our senior leadership.
All right. Now, just because so many people have reached out about this specific topic, you've covered a lot of things just with regards to the training, just the whole process that you went to. Is there anything at all that you may have maybe left out that you could walk us through just from that whole original starting process to actually arming your team?
I would say I think something I would add would be just I would advise that people do their research. think there are very valid arguments on both sides of the issue. And at the end of the day, your understanding of the risks and benefits and how to present them to key decision makers will determine whether or not someone will be successful in implementing a program. I would suggest that they share their proposal with others and allow them to poke holes in it before they present it to their senior leadership team. I think knowing where the questions might be asked will allow you to be better prepared to answer them.
All right, and IHSS actually has a guideline with regards to arming your security officers. Is this something that you were able to utilize when you were going through your process? And if not, is it something that would have been helpful in that transition?
Unfortunately, the IHSS guidelines came out after we developed our program, but we still read it and made sure we were following or exceeding what the organization suggested. We did have some questions that were asked by the agency that provides our accreditation on the use of firearms. So we used the guideline as we prepared our response. I think it's truly a great resource, and I would certainly say anyone considering whether or not to arm a security team should give it a read.
Right, and now that you actually have your armed security officers in place, what's the impact that you've seen on your operations?
Well, I think it's provided our officers with a greater confidence in their ability to confront any situation. I know with some of the questions we had from our unarmed team was how would we handle an active shooter. So I think this has given them the tools they need to be successful in that sort of situation should something occur. I think we've also had our employees have really expressed appreciation that the officers are armed and feel better protected. When we do have people who come into the hospital and they do remark, it's always been very favorable about the presence of the armed officers.
All right, and do you have just any last advice for a program leader who might be considering whether this is the right decision for them or not?
I would just add that security officers who's issued a firearm should also have some sort of less lethal option to deadly force. We issue tasers and aspatons along with firearms, and we train our officers in the use of force and the expectation that they go from the least amount of force to effectively resolve a situation. So I think just reminding people that there's a tremendous cost that's associated with arming officers. So body armor being another thing that you would need to purchase, just making sure that people are aware as they plan this exactly what the cost might be and the length of time it's going to go into implementing such a program.
Okay, and just before we wrap up, are there any closing thoughts, or is there anything that you'd like to share coming from your team down the road?
Well, we're going to be implementing a canine program here. We've already secured the funding for it. We purchased the vehicles. We have the dogs lined up, and we're sending 2 officers to train in Ohio next month, and hope to have a couple of canine officers by June. So we're pretty excited about that. No one else in Missouri is doing it. Again, I was able to reach out to some great resources through my connections here at IHSS, which has allowed me to develop that program, I think, and it should hit the ground running based upon the shared information that we got.
It looks like you guys have a lot of really positive things going on with your program. I understand that you have one of your team members actually speaking at the upcoming ACND
Yes,
in May as well.
John Goulburn, who runs our training program here at CoxHealth, is going to be presenting a class on how to start a training program, our training academy. It was something that we saw a lot of interest in at the last ACND, and he put in a proposal for it. It was selected. We're very excited about that. I think it's anyone who's interested in providing a high level of training for their officers should definitely attend.
Awesome. Now, I know another thing, Eric, you're a very active social media user. And actually, I was able to connect with you on LinkedIn. And, it's been great having you as a connection and just meeting you on that platform. What is your preferred method if anybody does want to reach out to you?
You can reach me on Twitter at Eric S. Clay, ERICSCLAY, and I can also be found on LinkedIn.
All right. Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I just wish you continued success. You're doing some really great things there at CoxHealth and just in the industry as a whole. So we appreciate you being a part of the industry, and I appreciate having you as a friend and a colleague.
Well, thank you, Brine. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today, and thank you for all your help and support over the years. And I look forward to seeing you in Phoenix.
All right. We'll see you then. And this concludes another episode of the Healthcare Security Cast, sponsored by 3D Network Technology. That's www.3dnetworktechnology.com. Join us again next week when we have a new guest and a new topic. Until then, take care.